Everyone assumed they knew the truth. She says they're wrong. The rumors move faster than the facts. In a matter of days, headlines and social media posts began pairing two names that, according to one of them, should never have been linked in the first place. Carly Scott Collins, a rising country singer still carving out her place in the industry, suddenly found herself at the center of speculation involving one of the biggest names in music, and she didn't stay quiet. Over the weekend, Collins took to Instagram to address the story directly, reacting to an article that suggested something far more serious than a casual connection. The claim implied that Keith Urban had not only grown close to her, but may have even moved in. Her response was immediate, public, and unambiguous. She described the rumor as completely untrue and made it clear she wanted no part in the narrative that was forming around her name. What made the situation escalate so quickly was timing. The always speculation surfaced just weeks after Keith Urban's divorce from Nicole Kidman was finalized. After nearly 2 decades of marriage, the separation itself had already drawn attention. Any new association, no matter how minor, was bound to be scrutinized. Publicly available reporting suggests the split between Urban and Kidman was not sudden. According to sources, it was something the couple had been discussing privately for months before the decision became official. They separated earlier in the year, and while there were efforts to work through their differences, the marriage ultimately came to an end. Together, they share 2 teenage children, and both have remained largely private about how they are navigating this new chapter. Against that backdrop, even a loose connection was enough to spark gossip. For Collins, the attention was unexpected. While she has been gaining recognition for her music, being tied to a global superstar brought a different kind of spotlight, one she didn't ask for and clearly didn't welcome. This wasn't the first time Urban had been linked to someone new since the divorce. Prior rumors connected him to his guitarist, Maggie Baugh. Those claims, too, were publicly addressed and dismissed. A close friend of Baugh, fellow singer Alexandra Kay, spoke on a country music podcast to clarify the situation, stating that the rumors were not true and that Baugh was in a happy, committed relationship unrelated to Urban. Each denial added another layer to the story, raising a bigger question. Why were these narratives spreading so easily, and why now? For Collins, the answer may lie in how quickly online speculation can blur lines between professional proximity, coincidence, and imagination. In an industry where collaborations, shared stages, and overlapping circles are common, assumptions can form without context. Once a rumor gains momentum, it often feels louder than the correction that follows. Her message on Instagram wasn't just a denial, it was a boundary. By responding directly, she signaled that silence would only allow the story to grow. At the same time, she avoided attacking anyone involved, keeping her tone firm but measured. As for Urban, his representatives have not suggested he is pursuing a new public relationship. Recent reports emphasize that his focus has been on work and family, especially during a period of personal transition. While curiosity around his private life remains high, confirmed details are limited. This leaves the public with a familiar pattern. Speculation fills the gaps where information is scarce. A headline becomes a theory becomes a rumor, and suddenly real people are expected to respond to stories they didn't create. What makes this moment notable isn't just the denial itself, but how clearly it highlights the difference between online narratives and reality. One post was enough to challenge weeks of chatter, but it also revealed how quickly those stories can form again. And that raises the next question. Once a rumor is out there, does the truth ever travel just as fast? In the days following her post, the conversation didn't disappear. It shifted. Some fans praised Collins for addressing the rumors head-on, while others questioned why her name had been pulled into a story that began with someone else's very public breakup. It was a reminder of how quickly the focus can move away from facts and onto speculation, especially when well-known figures are involved. What's important to note is that none of the claims linking Collins and Urban were supported by on-the-record confirmation or verifiable reporting. They were built on assumptions, timing, and the tendency for headlines to connect dots that don't necessarily exist. Collins' response stood out precisely because it cut through that noise with a direct statement, leaving little room for interpretation. For rising artists, moments like this can be complicated. On one hand, sudden attention can introduce a name to a wider audience. On the other, it risks overshadowing the work that person is actually trying to put forward. Collins has been steadily growing her fan base through her music, performances, and songwriting, not through controversy. Being framed as part of a celebrity romance narrative was never part of her public image. Keith Urban's situation adds another layer. After a long, high-profile marriage, any perceived change in his personal life is likely to draw outsized interest. Past examples show that even routine interactions can be framed as something more. In this case, multiple rumors involving different people were circulated and then corrected, reinforcing how fragile and temporary those stories can be. There's also a broader industry context at play. Country music in particular thrives on storytelling, authenticity, and personal connection. Fans often feel invested not just in the music, but in the lives of the artists themselves. That connection, while powerful, can sometimes blur into entitlement, a sense that every personal detail is open for interpretation or debate. Collins' decision to speak up may resonate beyond this single rumor. It sets a precedent for how emerging artists can reclaim control over their narratives without escalating conflict. By stating her truth clearly and then moving on, she avoided fueling the cycle that often keeps gossip alive. Meanwhile, official statements regarding Urban continue to emphasize stability and privacy. Previous clarifications from his representatives have consistently framed him as focused on co-parenting and maintaining a respectful dynamic with those in his life. That consistency matters, even if it doesn't generate the same level of attention as speculation. As the story settles, what remains is a clear contrast between rumor and response. One side relies on implication and timing, the other relies on direct communication. Over time, it's usually the latter that holds up. Still, the speed at which this narrative spread offers a lesson in how modern celebrity culture works. A single article can spark days of conversation, pull unrelated names into the spotlight, and demand explanations from people who never agreed to be part of the story. The bigger question now isn't who is or isn't dating whom. It's whether audiences are willing to pause, look for confirmed information, and allow public figures the space to define their own realities, rather than inheriting ones written for them.